Before we start, if this moves you, please subscribe and leave a like. Every bit helps. Support links in the comments. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
I drove the old road in the dark, didn't tell a soul I was coming back. The maple's still leaning toward the yard, the gravel still talks under the tires. I counted every mile like a rosary. 40 years of detours, dead ends and desires, but something in my chest knew the turns. Before my headlights touched the lane, I thought I'd burn the bridge to this place. Turns out I only changed my name. I told myself I'd move beyond what was left to find here anyway, but the closer that I got, the less I had to say. The light was still on, like you always knew I'd come around. The light was still on, every time I needed to be found. Some things don't ask for a reason, some love just holds its ground. The light was still on. Your voice was the same on the phone last fall, when I said I'm fine and you looked right through the line. There's a kind of knowing only decades give, a grace you stopped deserving and just finally receive. I carried so much that I left behind, wore my leaving like it made me strong. But the hardest thing about being gone so long is admitting that you knew where you belonged. I thought I'd outgrown what was here, I thought letting go made me free, but some doors stay open because someone kept believing in me. The light was still on, like you always knew I'd come around. The light was still on, every time I needed to be found. Some things don't ask for a reason, some love just holds its ground. The light was still on. I've been so many women in so many different towns. I've been brave and I've been reckless, I've been silent, I've been loud. But there's one place on this earth that never asked me to explain, and I swear I felt it calling from 100 miles away in the rain. The light was still on, softer now, like a whispered prayer. The light was still on, I could feel it through the cold November air. Some things don't ask for a reason, some love is always there. The light was still on. I left my suitcase on the step, and I just stood there in the glow. Some lights are lit by a love so deep, even the dark knows where to go. There's a ring on the wood where your mug always goes, and I never sanded it away. The chairs don't match, they never did. We picked them up from different lives, one from your mother's back porch in June, one from a yard sale, summer of '95. The window still sticks in the humid months, the radiator still ticks at night, and the light comes in at the same tired angle, turning everything ordinary into something right. We've had our heart talks right here, said the things that needed saying. This table held all of it and never stopped being a place worth staying. Same old kitchen table, same chipped edge, same worn grain. Same old kitchen table where we kept coming back again. Some people look for something grander, but honey, this is where I found my life, right here at the same old kitchen table, with the same good people by my side. Your laugh still sounds the same when something catches you off guard. We've cried here more than once, I won't pretend otherwise, but we've also sat till midnight over nothing much at all. And those are the hours I'd give anything to find. I've been to rooms with candlelight and crystal borrowed grace, fancy tables set for people who had nothing much to say. But I never felt as rich as when this table's full of us, and nobody's in a hurry, and nobody's going away. We watch the seasons through that window, watch the children leave and sometimes come back home. And something about sitting where we've always sat makes me feel like I was never really alone. Same old kitchen table, same chipped edge, same worn grain. Same old kitchen table where we kept coming back again. Some people look for something grander, but honey, this is where I found my life, right here at the same old kitchen table, with the same good people by my side. I used to think the big moments made a life, the weddings and the funerals and the news, but it's the Tuesday afternoons with coffee going cold and someone saying nothing while you're tying up your shoes. That's where love actually lives, not in the grand and the remembered, but in the quietly repeated, in the unremarkable November. Same old kitchen table, a little more worn than before. Same old kitchen table, still worth coming home for. Some people look for something grander, but honey, this is where I found my life, right here at the same old kitchen table, where everything that matters feels right. for the same old everything with you. I never asked for much, just someone who'd still be there when the road ran out. You found me somewhere between lost and looking, with a car that stalled and a map I couldn't read. You didn't make a big thing of it, just said move over, honey, leave the rest to me. That was 30 years ago on a Tuesday, somewhere outside of Bakersfield in the rain. And I thought about that moment more than I can count, how a simple thing like that can change everything. I've been strong when I had to be, I've been wrong more than I'd like to say, but every time I found the bottom, you already knew the way. Drive me home through the dark and the detours and the doubt. Drive me home when I've run every last direction out. I've been the woman who could handle it alone, but even she needs someone at the wheel sometimes. Baby, drive me home. We've had our seasons, none of them were easy. There were winters I was sure we wouldn't make the spring, but you've got a kind of patience I don't fully understand, like you always knew what we were worth, the weathering. I see us now in the rear view sometimes, young and stubborn, running toward the noise. And I wanna tell her, girl, just hold on, you're gonna love the quiet that he brings. I know every line of your profile in the dark, I know your hands on the wheel without looking down. And after all these miles together, you're still the best thing I've ever found. Drive me home through the dark and the detours and the doubt. Drive me home when I've run every last direction out. I've been the woman who could handle it alone, but even she needs someone at the wheel sometimes. Baby, drive me home. We don't need the radio anymore, we've got our own kind of silence now, the kind that doesn't ask for filling, the kind you only learn, you can't be shown. And when the long road finally straightens and the last good light is almost gone, I want your hand right there beside me. I wanna know that I am not alone. Drive me home, not just tonight, but all the nights to come. Drive me home like you've always done. I've been the woman who could handle it alone, but the best thing that I ever did, my love, was let you drive me home. Headlights cut through the November dark. The heater hums its old familiar song. Anywhere becomes the right place when you're the one who's bringing me along. My hands were doing the thing before my mind could find the words for it. I rolled the dough the way she showed me, right wrist first, then lean into the heel. I didn't think about it, didn't have to. Some things live below what you can feel. The drive to the old neighborhood at dusk, my hands found every turn before my eyes. There's a kind of memory that skips the mind entirely and settles somewhere deeper to survive. I used to chase the new like it meant something, kept moving like the stillness was a threat. But my body knew the whole time what I needed, the places and the rituals I hadn't lost yet. These hands know the way when the rest of me is lost and second guessing. These hands know the way down every road that ever did the blessing. I spent so many years inside my head, but my hands were always wiser than my fear. These hands know the way back home, and home was always closer than it appeared. The garden in the corner by the fence, my fingers in the soil before I thought to kneel. The way I reach for you across the dark without waking, without asking, without will. There's something in the repetition of a life, the 10,000 times of ordinary grace that writes itself into the muscle and the marrow until your hands could find it any place. I stopped apologizing for the slow things, the bread, the letters written out by hand. There's a kind of knowing only stillness gives you, something urgent living never helps you understand. These hands know the way when the rest of me is lost and second guessing. These hands know the way down every road that ever did the blessing. I spent so many years inside my head, but my hands were always wiser than my table set, every door held open wide. And when I lay these hands down at the ending, I'll know they led me truly, led me right. These hands know the way, not perfect, but so faithful through the years. These hands know the way, through all the grief, the grace, the shifts in gear. I've spent so many years inside my head, but my hands were always steadier than my doubt. These hands know the way back home, and that's what all of this was ever about. I pressed my palm flat against the old screen door, felt the warmth the afternoon had left behind. Some things don't need to be remembered, because they never really left your hands or mine.
We stopped needing to explain ourselves somewhere around the third decade. You answered on the second ring like always. I could hear the weather where you are. Dark somewhere in the background, a pot on the stove, all the ordinary sounds of who you are. Didn't talk for 6 weeks, could have been 7. Neither of us mentioned it, neither of us counts. That's the thing about a love that long and steady, it doesn't need the calendar to amount. We've been through the marriages and the endings, through the children growing strange and then back close, through the ones we lost too soon, the moves, the changes. You're the one who knew me when and knows me most. All the miles between us never made a dent in what we are. All the miles between us, you've always been my closest by far. Some friendships are a season, some a reason, but you're the whole long story, every part. All the miles between us never once could touch the miles inside my heart. I remember sitting on your kitchen floor in '89, both of us too broke and too proud to say. You poured the last of something into mismatched cups, and we talked the whole impossible night away. We were gonna change our lives by morning. We were gonna be so brave, so free, so new, honey. I don't know what all I've managed, but the bravest thing I ever did was keep on knowing you. We don't need to start from the beginning anymore. We just pick it up wherever it went still. And I think that's what they mean by a true companion, someone who remembers when you're done trying to. All the miles between us never made a dent in what we are. All the miles between us, you've always been my closest by far. Some friendships are a season, some a reason, but you're the whole long story, every part. something's funny and I reach for the phone. When a song comes on that only you would get it, you're the reason even far away feels like home. And if I go before you, look for me in October, in the light that does that thing we always loved. You'll know it's me just saying nothing in particular, the way we always did and always understood. All the miles between us, just geography, not distance, not goodbye. All the miles between us, you're the constant in a life that keeps changing skies. Some friendships are a season, some a reason, but you're the whole long story, every part. All the miles between us, and still you're the nearest thing to my heart. We said goodbye the way we always do, promising to call again too soon. And I sat there in the quiet after, hanging up, feeling full as a room lit up at noon. I stopped fighting the mirror somewhere around 52, and that was the beginning of everything. I used to stand a little sideways in the photographs, pulling what I could, push back against the years. I wore my certainty like armor most of the time, and underneath it all, that useless, nameless fear. But something in me loosened when I wasn't looking. Some night I'd carried since I was 17, and I woke up one October to a stranger in the glass who looked exactly like someone I had always wanted to be. I don't know when the war inside went quiet, I don't know which morning I lay down to fight, but I recognize this woman in the window, and for the first time in a long time that feels right. Softer now, not broken in, just broken open wide. Softer now, letting all the worn and beautiful inside. I spent so many years trying to be harder, trying to need less, feel less, ask for less somehow. But the truest thing I've ever been is standing here, softer now. You've seen me in the versions I'm not proud of, the brittle ones, the ones that pushed you out. You stayed through all the women I was trying, and loved me even louder in my doubt. I think of all the tenderness I turned away from, too proud to take it, too afraid to need, and how you waited with that patient, quiet, steady, till I finally learned to just receive. I'm not the girl I was, thank God for that. She was brave, but she was burning at both ends. And the woman that I'm growing into slowly is someone I would actually truest thing I've ever been is standing here, softer now. There are women who've gone through the fire before me, who tried to warn me this day would arrive when you stop performing your life for other people and just stand in it, grateful to be alive. I wish I could go back and hold the younger one, tell her, honey, you don't have to earn your keep. The softness isn't weakness, it's the wisdom. You'll spend 30 years of living trying to reach. Softer now, still standing, still burning, just not scared of the flames. Softer now, still becoming, just no longer ashamed. I spent so many years trying to be harder, but the armor was the heaviest thing I owned. The truest thing I've ever been is right here, softer now, and finally home. I smoothed the sheet across the bed this morning, slow and easy, no particular place to be. And I thought, so this is what it feels like to be soft enough to just be free.
The smell of wood smoke on a cold morning, and I was 23 again before I took another breath. I was just driving, nothing on my mind. Windows cracked, the radio on low, when the canyon hit me with that eucalyptus cold. The way October, only that road knows. And suddenly my hands were someone else's hands, and the years folded back without a sound. I was living in that apartment off Mulholland before I knew how much I didn't know. I wasn't sad, that's the strange thing. It wasn't lost the way the loss usually lands. It was more like meeting someone at a crossroads who smiled and said, I've been waiting here, take my hand. October on the canyon road brought me back to who I was before. October on the canyon road opened up a long forgotten door, not to change a thing or turn the clock around, just to remember where the woman in me started. October on the canyon road, and I drove real slow so it would last. There was a song I used to play till the tape wore thin. I heard 3 notes of it last spring and had to pull aside, because the girl who learned to love inside that music was still right there, still warm, still alive.
We think the past is somewhere that we left behind, but it's folded in between the layers of the now. And all it takes is one October canyon morning to remind you it was real and show you how. I don't need to go back to be glad it happened. I don't need to live it over to feel it true. I just need to let October do its quiet miracle and remember every woman I came through. October on the canyon road brought me back to who I was before. October on the canyon road opened up a long forgotten door, not to change a thing or turn the clock around, just to remember where the woman in me started. October on the canyon road, and I drove real slow so it would last. There's a version of me dancing in a kitchen to a record that we found at a secondhand store. There's a version laughing hard at something stupid on a blanket by the reservoir at 4. I carry all of it inside this body, every October, every canyon, every song. And the life I've built is richer for the knowing that all those women helped me all along. October on the canyon road, every year it finds me, every year I go. October on the canyon road, there are things only this season lets you know, not to change a thing or turn the clock around, just to walk back through the door and wave hello. October on the canyon road, some roads give you back more than you lost. I drove out the other end into the afternoon light, pulled onto the freeway, merged into the now. But I swear I brought her with me, that girl from long ago. She's riding shotgun and she's showing me how. I started counting the hours the moment you walked in. You dropped your bag right there beside the stairs, the same way that you did at 17. And for a moment I forgot the years between us. You were just my kid and I was just your mom in the kitchen. We talked till midnight the way we used to. You laughed at something and it lit the room entire. And I thought, don't say it, don't you dare say it. Don't let them see how much you wish time was slower. I know you have a life I helped you build. I know the road back home is yours to keep. But the house gets so enormous when you leave it, and Sunday comes too fast and runs too deep. Stay a little longer, just one more cup, one more long goodbye. Stay a little sister called while you were in the shower. I listened to you talk from down the hall. The way you are with her, the easy shorthand, still makes me proud in ways I can't recall how to say out loud. I set your old room up the way you like it, extra blanket, window cracked an inch. These are the things I cannot say directly, so I say them in the small things. Hope you get the hint. I'm not the kind of woman who holds on too tightly. I raised you to be gone, and I meant every bit. But meaning something and the feeling of it are two entirely different things to sit with. Stay a little longer, just one more cup, one more long goodbye. Stay a little longer, let me have you in my kitchen one more night. I know you can. There's a photograph on the refrigerator. You're 7 and you're missing your front teeth. You had no idea how fast it all was moving, and honestly, my darling, neither did I. I blinked and you were borrowing my jacket. I blinked and you were loading up a car, and I would not undo a single minute. I just didn't know a heart could stretch this far. There's no emergency in leaving. I know you can't. I know the world is waiting. God, I'm proud of every place you go. But stay a little longer, just a little longer. You can go. I watched your taillights disappear at the corner. Stood out on the porch a minute past the cold. Then I went inside and left your mug right where you left it. Some things you don't put away, some things you just let hold. Found the notebook in the back of the closet, and every page was still waiting for me. There was a girl who used to paint on Sunday mornings, before the world decided what her time was worth. She'd lose herself for hours in the color before she learned to feel guilty for that kind of joy. I packed her up somewhere around my 30s, when the practical and urgent filled the space, and I told myself I'd come back for her later. Later has a way of showing you its face. I'm not angry at the life I chose, most of it I choose again without a pause. But there are rooms inside a woman that go dark when nobody opens up the for good. Traded off for something steadier and true. But everything I left behind was just saving itself up for me to come back to. I signed up for the class on a Wednesday afternoon, half embarrassed, half on fire with something old. Walked in and smelled the paint and heard the brushes, and something in my chest just came in from the cold. The woman next to me was 67, said I used to do this 40 years ago. We laughed at ourselves the way you do when crying might be too close, and laughing lets you go. Nobody took those parts of me on purpose, and nobody could give them back but me. The hardest step was just believing that wanting something for yourself is not a selfish thing. Everything I left behind was quietly waiting in the corner of the house. Everything I left behind never made a sound, never wore itself out. I thought that I had lost those parts of me for good. Traded off for something steadier and true. But everything I left behind was just saving itself up for me to come back to. There's a voice I stopped using in conversations when I learned that rooms went smoother when I didn't. There's an appetite for solitude and wonder that I hushed because the schedule wouldn't fit it. I'm done apologizing for the woman who needs to sit with beauty and be still, who writes things down and reads until it's midnight, who has not yet used up all her will. Everything I left behind, I'm picking up again with different hands. Everything I left behind, I understand it now in ways I couldn't then. I'm not the girl who set those pieces down. She was doing what she had to, she was fine. But everything I left behind is exactly how I know this life is still mine. I painted something small last Sunday morning, nothing anyone would hang or call a thing. But I stood there in the light with color on my fingers and remembered what it felt like to be everything. I stopped asking where it's all going and started watching how beautiful the going is. I used to stand at every bend and worry what was waiting just beyond my sight. I spent so many years leaning into the future, I nearly missed the river in the light. But something in me settled in the turning, the way a long life teaches you to breathe. And And I looked around at everything I'm standing in and thought, so this is what they meant by peace. I'm not done, not even close to done. There are mornings I haven't met and roads I haven't walked, but I carry something now I didn't used to. A quiet underneath the wanting and the talk, where the river bends, the water doesn't fight the turning. Where the river bends, it just finds the way worth learning. I have lived enough to know the current, I have loved enough to trust the flow. Where the river bends is exactly where I was always meant to go. I think about the women who came before me, the ones who held their ground and held their tongue, who made a life out of the unremarkable and common, and left behind a warmth that still goes on. I wanna be that kind of quiet legacy, the one who made the kitchen feel like grace, who showed up and kept showing up and meant it, and left some light in every borrowed place. I don't need the grand conclusion anymore. I don't need the story tied and lifted to the sky. I just need the ones I love around the table, and enough of the day left to say goodbye. Where the river bends, the water doesn't fight the turning. Where the river bends, it just finds the way worth learning. I have lived enough to know the current, I have loved enough to trust the flow. Where the river bends is exactly where I was always meant to go. There are things I thought would break me that just changed me. There are losses I was sure I wouldn't survive, and here I am, still standing in the morning, still grateful, still astonished to be alive. I wanna live the rest of it wide open. No more armor, no more apology, no more small. Just a woman and the river and the bending and the willingness to give it all. Where the river bends, I'm not afraid of what I cannot see. Where the river bends, there's still so much of life ahead for me. I have lived enough to know the current, I have loved enough to trust the flow. Where the river bends is the most beautiful place I've ever known. I sat down by the water as the light was leaving. Let the current take whatever I had left to lose. And I thought, every bend has brought me to this moment, and every moment brought me back